Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Tuesday Newsday, where we go over everything that has been happening in gaming, tech, and YouTube in general. Today we're going to be diving into some interesting topics from some good releases like Marvel Rivals, which has come out recently and is doing pretty well, and Path of Exile 2, which has been also a really good release, other than some like server instability issues, but a lot of games that get massively popular have those types of issues. Regardless, we'll talk about that more later. And we are also going to be covering what you probably clicked on this video for, which is the fact that Ubisoft has scammed you. If you spent money on XDefiant, and we will cover the more niche details in a bit because some people are actually getting refunds, but for the most part, if you spent money on XDefiant, you are not getting refunded the way that they said they would refund players, which is a scam. And we will talk about that in a bit. So we will also be taking a look at upcoming December releases and key events to watch out for in the future, like releases past December, not just December releases. But no, let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Alright, first up, I want to talk about Path of Exile 2, an eagerly awaited sequel that promises to redefine the ARPG experience. This game has been at the forefront of anticipation for both veteran players and newcomers who admire the depth of its predecessor. Path of Exile 2 officially launched its early access phase recently, providing players with the opportunity to dive into its new campaign mechanics and content. This early access is a significant step for Grinding Gear games, as it allows them to test the water, gather player feedback, and fine-tune the game before its full release. You can make minor changes, but it's not like a proper beta or something like that. Obviously, you can't make massive sweeping changes unless you delay the game at this point. The initial response from the community has been overwhelmingly positive, with players praising the game for its visual improvements and the depth of the new systems. However, some players have noted that the early access is in a rough state, with minor bugs and balance issues that need attention. Grinding Gear Games has promised that Path of Exile 2 will be a significant step forward for the franchise. Unlike most sequels that merely add incremental improvements, Path of Exile 2 introduces a brand new campaign set 20 years after the original game, giving players the chance to explore new storylines and characters in a refreshed world. The game will feature a complete reimagining of the passive skill tree, offering even greater customization options and diversity in character builds. This overhaul ensures that players will continue to enjoy intricate and varied gameplay while tackling new challenges. So I'm excited to see the skill tree, honestly. I think just honestly because of all of the I say honestly too much, what the fuck? But anyway, I am excited to see the skill tree in Path of Exile 2 because in the first one it is quite a bit of a meme. It's like nightmare fuel trying to decipher. Awesome game though. Just like go through a build guide. One of the most noticeable upgrades is the enhanced graphics engine, which brings a more modern aesthetic to Path of Exile 2. The visuals have been improved with a combination of advanced lighting and particle effects and a higher level of detail for environments and character models in general. This is a huge leap from Path of Exile 1, which was known for a gritty, dark atmosphere that some players found charming but dated. I still love playing PoE 1. It's kind of like going back and playing Diablo 2. More Diablo 2 in 1. But like some of the earlier games like that, it's like it's not necessarily dated, it's just like the way the game was designed. With a good art style, I think like graphical limitations don't really come into play that much, especially if you go play something even like Bloodborne. I mean, obviously that'd be cool if it was uncapped, but yeah, release a better version, Sony, that'd be cool. Anyway, but no, like if you go back and look at any of the old games that were really popular at the time for really good graphics, well-designed art styles, like well-defined and well-designed art styles, you'll notice that even to this day, going back and looking at those games, it still looks just as good because it wasn't just, the engine's graphics were updated. Like Unreal 5 came out or something like that. It's more like, these developers have a good artist team. Like their art team was good and to put a lot of work into making sure that this is good and beautiful and something that players would enjoy. Alright, so the skill system in Path of Exile 2 features some major changes that make it more accessible while still retaining the deep complexity that it's known for. Players will find new skills and skill gems, adding a new layer of strategy for customizing playstyles. Additionally, GGG, or Grinding Gear Games, has integrated a new mechanic called Ascendancy Trees, which allows players to tailor their builds with more specialized skills and passive nodes. These changes aim to reduce the time needed to reach an optimal build while maintaining the depth that defines Path of Exile gameplay. And just honestly, the skill tree. If the skill tree itself is too small, it's just going to be strange. Coming from PoE 1, where it's, I don't even know how many skills. I mean, I'll put the number up, but or that way, I don't know. Put the number up. In Path of Exile 2, there will be new character classes to explore, each with distinct mechanics and lore. While the original game's classes will return, the new additions provide opportunities for players to engage with a wider variety of gameplay styles. These classes feature new abilities and unique playstyles, adding a fresh layer of depth to the gameplay. For example, the Marauder might receive updated melee skills that allow for better combo attacks and situational buffs. Grinding Gear Games has outlined a roadmap to keep fans informed on progress, including updates about future content and new releases. The game is set to be a standalone sequel, meaning that players will not necessarily be forced to play through the first game, although I definitely think you should. You won't even need to have owned or played the original Path of Exile, though, to be clear. While excitement is high, the community's expectations are also extremely high. Path of Exile 2 has large shoes to fill given the success and influence of the predecessor, which is revered for its complex systems, unforgiving difficulty, and endless replayability. Some longtime fans have raised concerns about whether the new direction will maintain the game's signature depth or cater more to a broader audience. GGG has reassured players that they are committed to keeping the core aspects that made PoE beloved, while also making enhancements that appeal to both newcomers and veterans alike. Next up, we are going to discuss probably the reason that you clicked on this video, which is how Ubisoft has just outright scammed you. Alright, so how this actually happened is that they've essentially walked back previous statements regarding player refunds. The gaming community was taken aback when Ubisoft announced the cancellation of X-Defiant. I don't know if it was really taken aback. I mean, a lot of people kind of expected it, saw it coming, as like they weren't really putting as much development effort into it, seemingly, and Call of Duty was coming out, or it came out and was doing well, so their player numbers are just not doing very well. Obviously, Call of Duty coming out and doing really well was not good for X-Defiant, and they're still doing their like planned season, but they're cutting it then, like right after that. So their free-to-play multiplayer shooter that aimed to blend first-person shooter mechanics with popular Ubisoft game universes was obviously shut down. While this decision in itself was disappointing to fans, what made it worse was the handling of refund promises and player expectations, and that is honestly where the scam part comes in. Some people are just upset that they're closing down the game in general, but the main issue is the fact that it was just a complete scam. Initially, Ubisoft committed to refunding players who spent money on X-Defiant, citing the shutdown of the game as the reason. They stated that players who had made in-game purchases would be eligible for full refunds, aiming to uphold their reputation for player-first policies. However, things took a turn when Ubisoft started to backtrack on this promise. Reports began surfacing that many players who were promised refunds either never received them or faced significant delays. The company's communication around this issue has been less than transparent, with players reporting a lack of follow-up or responses to their inquiries. So some people are just not being responded to at all. This situation has sparked outrage and accusations of Ubisoft misleading its player base and failing to uphold basic consumer rights, and just the fact that that is a scam. You saying one thing publicly, that you are going to refund people, this applies to Ubisoft mainly, but also anybody. If you are committing to refunding people, and then you don't refund them, or you refund specific people but not others, that is a scam. The X-Defiant refund debacle has been met with significant backlash Fans and critics have taken to social media, forums, and gaming communities to express their disappointment in Ubisoft's approach. Many see it as yet another example of the company's focus shifting away from the players and towards profit-driven decisions. Everybody's seen this coming. I mean, Ubisoft has been a fucking sinking ship for a while now. I mean, you can even just take 1 minute, like type Ubisoft into search, and you will not be seeing anything positive unless, like, there's some major SEO going on. All of the major creators talking about Ubisoft are focusing on, even prior to the scam accusations, we're just talking about how all of their recent releases are just dog shit, or that like they had nothing creative going on. Like their whole creative decision or only thing bringing you to the games is just that, like, oh, this character is X race or X gender or whatever, and it's just stupid. They should just go back to making good video games. But I don't know if that's honestly possible at this point. They might not have enough money to hire people that can make good video games at this point. So, the frustration is palpable, as longtime fans feel betrayed by a company that once had a reputation for creating beloved franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Siege. Rainbow Six in general. The entire Rainbow Six catalog, not just Rainbow Six Siege, but all of the Rainbow games. A lot of players have recently resorted to sharing their negative experiences online, warning others about the potential risks of investing in Ubisoft games or microtransactions. The controversy has also drawn comparisons to other instances in the gaming industry where companies made promises about player refunds or game support only to fall short. Now, Ubisoft's credibility is at a critical juncture. The company's mishandling of XDefiant and the fallout from its refund policy have raised questions about its future decisions and how they might affect consumer trust. I need some coffee. I'll be right back. Okay. Where were we? In the age of social media and fast-spreading news, any misstep can quickly snowball into a public relations crisis. I mean, just look at Ubisoft and their past history recently, or really any gaming company, like in recent history, Western gaming companies. A lot of them have been causing a lot of issues. The only real gaming company out here that has been, like consistently making relatively good decisions is like Valve. Release Half-Life 3, but other than that, they're making like pretty good decisions. And business-wise, they're definitely making good decisions. So, Ubisoft's failure to address the refund issue with urgency and transparency it warranted has left many wondering if they can trust the company with future releases. Yeah, honestly, it's not even just addressing it. The fact that they're doing it this way kind of shows their intentions. There's no way you're gonna say, oh yeah, we're gonna refund all of you, and then just not do that at all. I don't know. That, to me, it seems pretty cut and dry. The fallout from this could extend beyond XDefiant, impacting sales of upcoming titles and long-term player engagement. Ubisoft may need to take significant steps to repair its image, including rethinking its customer service practices and being more transparent about game policies and financial transactions. Also, whoever made the decision to say that, because like a PR person may have been like the actual employee to have said something, like if some guy above him's like, oh, you tweet this, you know what I mean, for example. But anyway, like whoever was responsible for saying, oh, you'll all be refunded, and then not refunding, fired. You don't have to do that, obviously, but if you want to make like some kind of positive step towards repairing your like public perception, you have to do something publicly good. You can't just like do a bunch of stuff behind closed doors and expect publicly your image to improve. Now, let's take the time to discuss Marvel Rivals, the newest entry in the competitive gaming scene that has just launched. It is basically an Overwatch clone, and there's a sea of those really, but people have been excited for this one because it has the Marvel license. So, honestly, yeah, people have been a bit upset with Overwatch, and an Overwatch clone with a better license could easily take over the top spot as one of the best MOBAs. So, the game is generating significant buzz as it positions itself as one of the top MOBAs. Drawing comparisons to popular games like Overwatch, not just comparisons, it's just straight rip, but Anyway, with its unique blend of strategy, fast-paced action, and beloved Marvel characters, Marvel Rivals is already making waves in the gaming community. It is a 5v5 MOBA, so it focuses more on team-based matches, similar to Overwatch and Paladins, where players pick from a roster of Marvel heroes and villains to compete in strategic battles. Unlike traditional MOBAs, Marvel Rivals is more akin to a first-person, third-person shooter with abilities and role-specific gameplay that challenges players' coordination and tactics. At its core, Marvel Rivals emphasizes team strategy and unique hero abilities. Players choose characters that fall into roles such as DPS, tanks, support, the same as most, each with distinct skill sets and ultimate abilities that can turn the tide of battle. Very, very much just the already carved out genre. Doesn't really stray too far. Anyway, the game features a blend of traditional shooting mechanics combined with specialized abilities that demand quick reflexes and strategic planning. Obviously, the roster is quite exciting, as there is everything from Iron Man and Spider-Man to villains like Thanos and Loki. So, with all of the unique abilities, it makes a bit of sense for players or gamers in general rather, not just players of the game, to have a bit of like a power fantasy to kind of play through something like this, especially being a free game. You might even get people that don't really play many games, you know what I mean? Because just being available for free and having the Marvel license where you can just you might get Marvel fans, for example, who sometimes play games but don't really game, You might get some actual converts to some basement-dwelling gamers. Anyway. Each possessing unique abilities that cater to different playstyles. Balancing these abilities is essential to gameplay, with heroes designed to counter or synergize with each other. Each of the characters obviously possess unique abilities that are essential to gameplay, with heroes designed to counter or synergize with each other. Very similar to Overwatch. It is just an Overwatch clone, but Marvel. So in my opinion, better than Overwatch. But anyway. The game includes various maps designed to promote tactical gameplay, each with its own objectives. The game includes 8 maps, so honestly that's not that bad. I think at start of a free game launch, Marvel license, 8 maps to go for. Unless you hate all of them, then it's going to feel like there's no good maps, but 8 maps is pretty good. I hate to reiterate the same thing over and over again, but that's a pretty good variety for arena style, where it has to be a much more balanced map. It's not kind of just like COD, where you just stick to a fucking basic layout where you either do 3 lanes or like a split, you know what I mean? You just, oh yeah, it'll work. Just put spawns on either side and base it on proximity, and it's not that hard. Whereas like something like this, you're gonna want to make it more prioritized on making sure individual teams don't have the wrong advantage. You know what I mean? You don't want defenders to be able to just instantly spawn snipe attackers every single round, for example. Anyway, the environment plays a key role with interactive elements that can influence matches like destructible cover and moving platforms. Since its launch recently, Marvel Rivals has seen an enthusiastic reception from both Marvel fans and competitive gamers. Streamers and early adopters have shared their gameplay experiences, showcasing the potential for fun, fast-paced matches and in-depth strategy. However, as with any new game, there are mixed reactions, particularly concerning balancing issues and server stability, which is honestly to be expected, especially with a free game that gets popular. They probably should have expected popularity with this license, but it's free, so you can always just hop on and fill up servers real quick, especially during the launch period where people that otherwise wouldn't be playing are going to want to try. But again, if any of us can predict that, somebody there should have been able to predict that, so obviously updates will fix that, but updates will not fix the launch. So given the current trends in competitive games, Marvel Rivals will likely include in-game purchases for cosmetics, skins, and potentially premium items. It's a free game. It's not really that bad with this one, so it depends on monetization. You know what I mean? If they block out actual parts of the game, then that's a problem. But if they're just making cosmetics, it's a completely free game, so you can't really blame them for that. They got to make money somehow, or even just keep the servers up and running. Anyway, players will also have the option to unlock characters through progression or purchase them directly. providing a mix of free and paid content. So that's very similar to something like Val, where you can just like play for a while if you want to grind a bunch of hours and do it for free, or you can just pay to unlock the character. Makes sense. Model mirrors successful systems seen in games like League, Fortnite, Overwatch, where cosmetic customization is the main revenue stream. With the launch being so recent, the community is already discussing both positives and negatives. Server issues, match balancing, and connectivity problems are common initial challenges for any online competitive game. However, there is also strong potential for Marvel Rivals to carve out its niche in the crowded market of team-based games, mainly due to the strength of the license. Fans are hopeful for regular updates, character additions, and balance patches that will keep the game fresh and engaging for both casual players and hardcore fans. Looking ahead, devs have teased plans for future content that could obviously include more characters, maps, and seasonal events that will keep players invested. There's potential for crossovers with other Marvel franchises, expanding the character pool and offering new gameplay dynamics. The game's success will largely depend on how well the developers listen to community feedback and refine the experience over time. Post-launch is obviously how any of these live experiences, like live experiences. Post-launch support is obviously how any of these live services do well, right? So, all right. Next up, we are going to talk about just some miscellaneous upcoming events and games. First, we're going to talk about some bigger upcoming releases. First, we're going to talk about Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza. New entry in the Yakuza series promises to mix the series' trademark combat and narrative with fresh mechanics like a new Sea Dog style combat and ship-based exploration. Players step into the shoes of Goro, who leads a pirate crew in a tale set in Hawaii. Notably, the tale is slated for release February 21st, 2025, moving up by a week to avoid clashing with Monster Hunter Wilds, another upcoming release that we are highly anticipating here, which has generated significant anticipation. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, on one end we have Pirate Yakuza, which is kind of like a cult classic with Like a Dragon and the Yakuza franchise, right? I mean, obviously it's amazing, but not everybody loves it, right? I mean, I of course do, so that's why I'm talking about it. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have Assassin's Creed Shadows, a franchise I used to love, but hopefully this one is not terrible. The new chapter in the iconic Assassin's Creed franchise continues the series' tradition of mixing stealth, exploration, historical fiction, and controversy, set to launch on February 14th, 2025. It's expected to offer a unique story that pushes the narrative boundaries while staying true to what fans love. Now, I hope so. These are promises, but they are Ubisoft promises, so a kilogram of salt. Massive kilogram of salt. And for lastly, I'm going to talk about, for gaming enthusiasts looking forward to upcoming events, here is a schedule to check out and keep track of. The SAC Gamers Expo in 2024. Okay, no. Sorry, I thought I had the dates wrong there for a second. SAC Gamers Expo 2024 happening December 14th and 15th in Sacramento, California. This expo celebrates gaming culture with special guests, game vendors, tournaments, and retro gaming setups. So keep an eye out if you like retro gaming. Boston FIG 2024, set for December 15th in Boston, Massachusetts. This event is a showcase for independent game developers, offering a chance to explore digital and tabletop games and experience immersive gaming. So this one I thought you'd want to take a look at if you like tabletop games or if you like indie games. Be sure to take a look, as there might not be other advertising for some of the games that might be very cool. CES 2025, one of the world's most significant tech events, taking place January 7th through 10th in Los Angeles. This will feature the latest innovations in gaming and tech industries. I love games though, so maybe virtually attend the convention. Global Game Jam 2025. Running January 20th through 26th online and at various global locations, this event is a collaborative hackathon in quotations, for game development, where participants can create games in a short time, kind of like a time trial for game devs to make like small, cool projects. I think one of them actually got really popular on Steam after last year's Game Jam. Can't remember exactly, but throw it up on screen if I am right. 14th Annual New York Game Awards, scheduled for January 21st at the SVA Theater in New York, hosted by Reggie Fils-Aimé, will celebrate the best in gaming, kind of like Reggie's Game Awards. And that is a wrap for the Tuesday Newsday this week. Thanks for hanging out as we covered everything from the CES highlights to Ubisoft's outright scam. And let's be real, there is no excuse for scamming players. If you enjoyed the video, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's Tuesday Newsday or any of the other content that I have in store. If you stayed this long, then I guess I'll give you a little sneak peek, but it might involve SCPs, so who knows? Drop your thoughts on these stories in the comments. What excites you, what infuriates you, and most importantly, what would you say to Ubisoft? I know what I would say. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and I will see you in the next one. And by the way, Ubisoft, fuck you.